everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sell More Book Show, episode 469. I'm Brian Cohen from Best Page Forward, joined by Claire Taylor from FFS Media. Claire, we're in it. We're in April, getting a little warmer. Spring pollens are spreading even more so across our city streets. How are you doing?
Besides the roving bands of allergens,
I know.
Doing great. It's good. April's good. April's a good month. I feel like things start to turn around in April, in Texas at least, and in my life as I know it. What about you, Brian? What's going on with you?
Oh, well, just getting back from vacation, and really, vacation being, of course, spring break with a kid in a car at long lengths. And so, there's varying degrees to which you'd call it a vacation. But I think that we enjoy getting out and seeing people, which, of course, a couple years back we weren't able to do, and we weren't really able for the kiddo to go see other people. And so to be able to do that, to have that freedom is really, really nice. And I think that we've been taking more and more advantage of it the last year, and spring break allowing us to just go far and wide is something I'm very grateful for.
Awesome. I bought a pair of roller skates not too long ago, and I haven't used them yet. So maybe April is the month where I get out there and put myself straight in the hospital.
I think as a person who has fallen on roller skates and blades many a time, you might end up in the hospital. But
there's a good chance of it. I have all the pads and everything. Yeah. I probably need a helmet, frankly.
Here's what I would recommend. Do a little walk of the area you're going to be roller skating in, and just assess the ground for likely bumps. Because you're not going to fall on a straightaway. You're going to fall on a hill or a bump.
Sounds like a challenge, actually. One of my friends who did roller derby for years, her first thing, I was like, okay, what is the number one tip? She's like, learn to fall. Just learn to fall forward. Just fall forward. And yeah, okay. So I'm going to go try that. TBD if I'm ever on the show again.
Yeah, it's like you come with a full body cast, but you're still, you've got your husband moving the mic over to your face.
Ignore the beeping in the background. That's just my heart rate monitor at the hospital.
Yeah, can you turn that off, that bracket? No, that's just making it consistent. So we don't have a previous week's question to share here. So we're just going to go right into the top story of the week. AI book boom or boon? ChatGPT has launched a boom of AI-assisted books over the last few months. Quote, there were over 200 books in Amazon's Kindle store as of mid-February, listing ChatGPT as an author or co-author, reports Greg Bensinger of Reuters. And the number is rising daily. There is even a new subgenre on Amazon, books about using ChatGPT, written entirely by ChatGPT, end quote. Many think this number is vastly underreported due to the nature of ChatGPT, and that many authors fail to disclose that they have used it. Quote, it is nearly impossible to get a full accounting of how many books may be written by AI, end quote. While few of these AI books are selling well, many worry that AI books will overwhelm Amazon's human-written books, making them harder to find. Reuters asked Amazon how it planned to address the issue of AI and automated writing tools, but the retailer said their current policies already address the important parts. Quote, all books in the store must adhere to our content guidelines, including by complying with intellectual property rights and other applicable laws, end quote. Amazon spokeswoman Lindsay Hamilton said, Amazon is, she said the previous thing. Take that, rewind it back. Amazon is not the only place AI is showing up big. Neil Clark, editor and publisher of the Hugo and World Fantasy Award-winning Clark's World magazine, had to close submissions when low-quality AI-generated works started coming in at over 500 per month. Author Mark Dawson, who has sold millions of copies of books that he wrote himself through Kindle Direct Publishing, was quick to call ChatGPT-assisted novels dull in an email to Reuters. Quote, merit plays a part in how books are recommended to other readers, says Dawson. If a book gets bad reviews because the writing is dull, then it's quickly going to sink to the bottom. End quote. Whew, that was a long one, so I'm just going to go right to you, Claire. Claire, do you agree with Mark here? What are your general thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think that you're going to stem the flow because it can be done so quickly and effortlessly and cheaply to create this. So I don't think that that's the best approach for authors to even worry about stemming the flow. I think that's a legal matter. So if you are a lawyer and an author, maybe it is your problem. But if you're not a lawyer on the side, I think that it's important to remember what Mark said. I agree with him here. There is something soulless about AI writing. It just, I don't actually know how to say it other than it feels like looking into dead eyes. Like it is just not there. And so there might be some people who are okay with that and read that, because sometimes there have been non-AI books that I felt that way about as well. But I just think that if your strategy is built around writing quality books, you're still just fine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And we talked about a couple weeks ago that AI as a tool to help you cover the spots that you don't like in the writing process does not mean AI writing the whole book. I was speaking with my brother who does content marketing, and he said, look, sometimes if a paragraph is off, I'll go to something like ChatGPT, say, take this article, write a new last paragraph for it, and then he'll run that last paragraph through a other program that lets you not detect that something was AI written, and then he puts it on his site. And that may at some point be doable for books as well, but it still probably is not going to have the soul, as you kind of put it. It's going to have that dead eye feel if it's just straight up generated by AI, untouched, and thrown right into a book. It is not going to sound right, and that uncanny valley will likely keep those books from getting good reviews, as Mr. Dawson said, and people were worried about the glut of self-published books written by humans. And the glut didn't really cause an issue because the best books that were written with a certain audience in mind rose to the top, and books that were not very good or were not written with a certain audience in mind tended to tank. And so the same kind of thing I think will happen with AI books.
Yeah, and it could be just my human hubris to think that these AI writing applications will not will continue to lack soul, but I just don't see it happening. And I think that getting worked up about it is probably a waste of the energy you could be putting into something that you love.
Yeah, agreed. Claire, what can authors? These are the hot potatoes. Oh, hot potato. What can authors do to stay relevant in the face of AI books?
I think that authors can stay relevant by connecting with their readers. That's something that AI still can't really do, right? We've had chatbots of some kind or another since like the early 90s, right? I don't know if anyone remembers getting on AOL Instant Messenger and there's these little chatbots you can tell. Oh, yeah. And
I remember.
Did you decide, you know what, I'm going to live here. I'm going to talk to this instead of making friends. Maybe some people did. It's called, selection.
No, but, I did.
Instead of making friends? All right. Well,
I mean,
you do you, Bryan.
Occasionally.
But yeah, there's something that's missing that is human. And I know this is kind of like more of a spiritualist take. Because it's like, well, what is, like scientifically, what is missing? And I don't know, but I just think that connecting with people in person, I think that in-person events is going to be a much bigger draw for authors. I think Zoom calls, I think, just that connection that you still can't get. It's very human. I think that a lot of people, it's not just authors that are freaked out about AI. I think readers are freaked out about it too. I think everyone is a little bit cautious about it. And readers will have preferences too of, I only read human written books. So, I think that just being human and making sure that you're making connections with your readers is going to set you apart from AI. It can't do that. It doesn't know love. So
it doesn't know love. Yeah, that's going to come back and bite us when the overlords come back.
Should have programmed the love and not just the hate. Okay, Bryan. What, if anything, should Amazon do about the future influx of AI-generated books?
So at some point, there's probably going to be thousands of AI-generated books that are fully cover-to-cover generated. And should Amazon do anything about it? I mean, I think that there will be more books going into the system, but a lot of those books are not going to be rewarded by the way that Amazon rewards books, which is by people buying them, which is by people reading them and reviewing them highly, which is by having the right keywords and the right metadata. A lot of these AI books, probably 99% of them, are not going to have those things optimized, and those books are not going to sell well. So I don't think Amazon necessarily needs to do anything. I think that what Amazon does need to do is they need to get a better system together for not punishing authors, because that is the biggest problem. I think rather than AI being the issue, I think Amazon needs to make sure whatever AI processes it has that are targeting authors, real authors who shouldn't be punished, that needs to be the biggest focus right now. Once that gets dealt with, maybe they can deal with the so-called glut of AI books.
Yeah, you don't want AI nepotism, where the AI algorithm only prioritizes AI books because it's related. I will ask this. What do you think might happen with click farms when we have more AI books? Do you think that's going to be a thing that happens again? I know it's never really gone away, but that was big in 2018. Remember?
Click farms were big, especially with KU pages. But Amazon seems to have dealt with a lot of those issues, and maybe some of them will continue to crop up. But the system gets gamed, and then the people who have the system clamp down on it. That's the way it has always worked. And yes, the system will be gameable for some time, but I think Amazon will clamp down on it, so I'm not too worried about click farms.
The system will be gamed.
The system will be gamed, but then it'll be fine after, like usual.
As always.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was a tree falling. I don't know. We're into the lightning round. Claire, when you write a book, do you think of a title before you write it, or do you name it only after the book is done?
I never know, Bryan. Okay, so when I start writing a book, I never know when the title is going to come to me. I don't know. Sometimes it's beforehand because just for whatever reason, I'm like, I need to think of a title so I can get the cover going so that I can, make sure that I have it up on pre-order, blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes I cannot think of the title to save my life. And only in the process of writing do I discover what a funny or appropriate title would be. And then, of course, I have a process of vetting it to make sure that it doesn't already exist within the genre within the last few years. And that it might have good keywords for the genre.
Yeah. Good
All right,
answer.
Bryan. How important is the title of a book?
A book title is very important, but it's not always important for the reasons you might think. So I think that one of the number one considerations with a book's title is the search engine optimization of that title. A friend of mine had a book that was high heat level in romance, but in the title was the word sweet because that was the title that the author had come up with. And so it started ranking for sweet romance searches rather than the higher heat romance that they were targeting. And you don't always think about that stuff, but you need to make sure words that wouldn't accidentally make the algorithm confused stay out of that title, and that the words you are using are consistent with reader expectations of that genre. Don't come up with something that's inside joke, inside baseball, something that you're going to learn halfway through the book. Leave that out of your titling process. You need to think about the SEO, and you need to think about what readers expect. And look, then once you've figured out a bunch of books and you've gotten a big email list, title it whatever you want. But until that point, make sure the title is spot on.
Love it. And I have noticed that none of my readers remember any of my titles in any genre.
Right. Right. So that's worth keeping in mind. Claire, how often should an author email their list, and what should they say?
Okay, this is a question that I hear a lot. How often should I email my list, and what do I say to them? And the answer varies so wildly. It depends on what your goal is with your list. What is your purpose for having that list? What value are you delivering to them? That's really important. What are you trying to get out of it? Are you trying to form a connection, or are you making this like a hard selling list? What is your author strategy? And that will tell you how to use your list. So how frequently you email them. Now, there are all kinds of schools for thought on this, and all of them I've seen be successful. I email my list when I have something important to say. That's pretty much it. I email my humor list when I have something funny to say, usually a funny story. Sometimes I'll email them if I'm running a series, but presumably, or a sale on a series, but presumably they have read the series. And so maybe I'll just mention it at the bottom of some other content. And then I will email other lists for just new releases or cross promotions, because I have a promo coming up and I need other authors to promote my stuff. So I'll do an email going out to promote their stuff, a little, back scratching there. And for my author list, I try to do it frequently, because I know that front of mind is very important for that particular wing of my business. And so I have to really pump myself for information to make sure that I'm delivering something valuable. So that was not really a lightning question. That was more of like a rumbling thunder question.
I like it. It was rumbling thunder, but it was a lot of great information.
All right. So Bryan, how do you promote your email list to get new subscribers?
So I promote my email list to get new subscribers in a variety of ways, and it's going to be different for nonfiction and for fiction. For fiction, the way I've seen it work, I think the back of your book, your back matter, is a great place to get folks who are already in the system in a way, because they've already read at least one of your books. They are prime candidates to buy future books from you. I've seen people do epilogues. I've seen people do extra scenes. I've seen people do scenes from a different point of view. I think that these are great story-related ideas. They're very reader magnet-y ways to get folks on. And if you are nonfiction, teach. Just teach. Webinars and joint webinars with other people have been the best way for me to build my nonfiction list, especially at the beginning. And that is absolutely the way I would focus on when you're teaching, because people are going to read your book if they like the teaching that you are doing.
Yep, they will.
They will. Claire, so what TV or streaming show has inspired your writing? Ghost Hunters, right?
Ghost Adventures, first of all.
Sorry.
No, okay. I would say that the TV show that has had the most influence on my writing career is The Simpsons. I mean, it's a classic. It's done all the things. It has great characterization. They have great diversity of personalities on there, so that you can see like when you need to make the joke, who do you bring in for that particular joke? It's just, I haven't watched it in like the last 10 years, but I grew up watching it. Much to the dismay of my mother, who banned it like multiple times, like okay, we're never watching it again. And then me and my dad turning it back on and watching it. But it's influenced my whole life, unfortunately. So I mean, and then of course, for any sort of crime fiction, I just watch so much true crime. And lately I've been listening to the Deck podcast, which is unsolved murders, which that makes my ideation strength just like pop off. So yeah, that I think that the unsolved, even though I hate unsolved crime fiction or like crimes of any kind, I need that closure when they're not solved. It's good for my writing. Right.
For me and The Simpsons, I grew up quoting it with all of my friends. And earlier, I forget if it was this episode or a previous episode, when you were saying something about like evil, I was like, somebody switched this doll to evil. And just one of my favorite gags.
The references are in my head all the time.
Forever. Forever.
Yeah. Basically, anything that Conan O'Brien has done has influenced me.
Yes. Darn smarch weather. Okay. So, they're all from Treehouse of Horror episodes today for some reason. But Claire, we need a question of the week that probably shouldn't be about The Simpsons, could be about AI, but could be about really anything. What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about The Simpsons, Brian. I want to ask people what their favorite Simpsons episode is, but we won't do that. Because we all know it's the monorail episode.
We all know it's the monorail episode. Yeah.
How about asking people how they pick out their book title? How did you pick out your last book title?
I love it. You can answer that question of the week over at the Sell More Book Show after party, sellmorebookshow.com, or on our Sell More Book Show YouTube channel. Claire, I'm so glad we get to do this show every week. I am excited. We'll have a big number. 470 next week. We're coming up closer to the all-important 500th episode. I can barely believe it.
I know. We have such a big surprise plan for 500. I just want to get that recorded right now, so everybody knows and we're held accountable for it.
It's such a surprise.
We totally have it planned already.
That we already have planned. Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Cool. All right. Well, go book Claire for like the next 7 months over at ffs.media. Go take my ad challenge coming up on April 19th. We recorded the whole thing from scratch. We do that every so often, and I'm excited with the changes in this one. We always record new stuff for each one, but not always the whole thing from scratch. So this is a fun reset for us. That's at authorsadvertise.com. And please, today, tell a friend about the Sell More Book Show. We would love, please, we would love for new people who haven't heard us to find out about us, because it is always great to connect with more authors.
It is. And telling your therapist doesn't count because they can't tell anyone else. So that kind of, it's a dead end word.
Or your priest in confession, or...
You're all the people you shouldn't tell about the show.
Exactly. For true crime Claire, I'm, I don't know, Blur Bryan. Come back and see us next week. Have a great week of book selling, everybody. And we'll be back next week for episode 470. Bye.